Hey, it's Rick from 4Community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. I am a bit of a mess right now because today is my oldest daughter, was my oldest daughter's prom. And I was outside in front of my house taking pictures with my daughter, who's looking all grown up, like good grief. I didn't want this to happen. I mean, I was pressing down her head almost every day to try to keep her little, and she's not little anymore. And by the way, there was a boy who showed up to drive her to the prom. Well, her dad decided to be, we're friends. Her dad decided to be the chauffeur. And dude decked out, man. He bought like a matching vest for her dress, and she asked him to wear a bow tie, and he did. He gets out of, the vehicle, and he puts his jacket on and presents himself all nice and dapper and gives her this crafted corsage thing. I don't have a clue. Man, this sucks. Yeah, I mean, it does, because I thought she was my little girl. She's my little girl. Now suddenly she's kind of growing up. It kind of sucks. I'm stuck in my head that she's still 3 and she's not still 3. Okay, this video has nothing to do with proms or my daughter. We're looking at 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 11 to 17. This text does have something to say about not holding on too tightly and looking forward to better things that have been guaranteed for us. 1 Peter chapter 2, verses 11 to 17. Dear friends, I warn you as temporary residents and foreigners. Love that phrase. To keep away from worldly desires that wage war against your very souls. Be careful to live properly among your unbelieving neighbors. Then, even if they accuse you of doing wrong, they will see your honorable behavior, and they will give honor to God when he judges the world. For the Lord's sake, submit to all human authority, whether the king as head of state or the officials as he has appointed, for the king has sent them to punish those who do wrong and to honor those who do right. It's God's will that your honorable lives would silence those ignorant people who make foolish accusations against you. For you are free, yet you are God's slaves. So don't use your freedom as an excuse to do evil. Respect everyone and love the family of believers. Fear God and respect the king. Here's the direction I want to take for this video. I want to look at how to avoid getting stuck and also how to be more hopeful. And I think there's a lot of things that we can get over invested in and we can get stuck in. We can hold on to things way too hard and way too long. Sometimes it's just because we've lost perspective. And I think that if we change our perspective and we reframe it, think about this a little differently and just be honest with ourselves, I think it's going to help us not to get stuck holding onto things that are they're just going to hold us back and eventually hurt us and stop us from growing. I would like to see you live a hopeful life. I would like to see you live feeling kind of light. I'd like to see you having the ability to shrug some things off so that you're not having anxiety attacks or moments of rage. So here's what I got for you today. I got 3 points to help us not get stuck and instead stay hopeful. Here's the first point that I have. The next stop is better. The text says, I warn you as temporary residents and foreigners. And it's this phrase here, temporary residents and foreigners, that I just want to take a look at for a second. I have no intention to put down anyone for the nice things that they have. I love my Harley, I love my tent trailer, love my board game collection, love my house. You got things too that you've worked really hard for that you love. It's all good. This isn't a stuff hating video. I'm not going to say anything about stuff hating. I want to talk about perspective. As we're pursuing the lives we feel we need to live that help us feel fulfilled and give us some kind of meaning for our lives while we're here, the perspective is that it's all temporary. I think it's an awesome thought to carry with us that we are foreigners. We're just passing through. We don't really belong here. We belong to a far better place, and we're just passing through. I mean, I really felt this one hard just today, earlier as I'm recording this video taking pictures of my daughter all dressed up for prom, watching this guy kind of pull up and it all dapper. And something hit me really hard that she's graduating and she's growing up. And like, man, this sucks. She's not going to stay my little 3-year-old girl. And I keep on still calling her three and she's not. And this really sucks for me because I love being a dad and I don't want to lose that. The feeling of, oh man, this really sucks. I think that's what I'd like to help us with, help you and me with. I want to avoid that. And I don't want us to avoid that with sort of a common thought that we sometimes hear. I mean, the common thought that we sometimes hear around texts like this is if you hold on too tightly, if you pursue too deeply, you're going to find out that you're going to lose it all anyways. You can't take it with you. I think that's a horrible perspective because it just takes the meaning out of life. Don't hold on too deeply because you're going to lose it. Well, that means it's kind of saying that our whole life is just meaningless. That's kind of backward and that's kind of twisted. And I don't think that we should be thinking like that. I love this verse as it highlights the fact that we're foreigners. You know, this is a better way, I think, to treat this. We're heading to a place that's much better. That's the perspective we need to hold on to. Do as well as you can here. Seek joy, seek fulfillment, seek Harleys, play pinball, do whatever's on your list of things to do. And while you're doing that, remember to hold it loosely because, not because you're going to lose everything, but because you're moving on to something much better. And by the way, you're not going to lose everything. If you're a Jesus follower, you're not going to lose everything because there's some things that we do here that actually has eternal relevance. The stuff that we do to connect with other people, the stuff that we do to lead people to Jesus, that's not irrelevant. You know, we take people with us into eternity as we connect them with Jesus. So what we do here actually matters. Since we're moving on to something much better, it's okay not to get your own way here. It's okay to not get everything that you had your heart set on. It's okay not to be first or even to make it to the line. All of that is okay. And it's not okay simply because of the sentiment that we're going to lose it all anyways. You know, that doesn't make it okay. It's okay because we're here temporarily as we wait until we move on to something far better. Nothing we've missed here is going to be worth thinking about when we get to that next stop in eternity. That next stop is going to be far better. And I think this is a very grounded idea. I think that's why it's at the very front of the rest of this passage here that we're looking at, because we're moving on to something better. There are a few things we're being encouraged to do that maybe experienced as painful. So ground with the truth that things will be much better for you. And now here comes the pain. We're moving on to much better things. We're not going to get all of our own way here. It's going to be painful. So here's the second point. Choose wisely so you don't miss the next stop. I want to pull two spots in this text out here. First one is keep away from worldly desires that wage against your very soul. And then I'm going to scroll down to verse 16 here where it says, "For you are free, yet you are God's slaves, so don't use your freedom as an excuse to do evil." So here's my take on these two kind of different verses within the passage. We're being asked to consider intentionally not getting into some lines or not showing up to the store or not looking into things that have negative outcome of risking you getting to the next stop. Namely, there's a reference here to desires that wage war against your soul, my soul. This is just true for both of us. And I love how it doesn't name the things here. It doesn't give us specifics because it's not always the same for everybody. It's not the same for everybody. What I'm tempted by and what you're tempted by can be and probably are very different. You know, we've all got different weaknesses, hangups, desires, whatever. You know, we're different. I mean, one of my temptations is to spend way too much money on big board games. That's true, at the risk of ticking off my wife and messing up our budget. Like that's a big deal. Is that a soul sucking war? Well, it could be. For me, if I choose to live selfishly and it results in losing my family, then yeah, it's pretty soul sucking. Now, I'm confident that Peter has no thought at all of putting don't buy board games into this text here. And I'm pretty confident that most of you won't be tempted at the same thing that I am. And let's face it, this is kind of the safe thing to talk about. You and I are different. And here's the great news: we have freedom. If you're a Jesus follower, then you've been forgiven and you don't have to worry about eternal judgment. And instead, you get to look forward to eternal freedom. The eternal freedom, and that freedom from fearing judgment right now, is not a license for us to do anything that we want to do. It's the potential and the invitation to pursue greater purpose and find greater fulfillment and connection in a better way with God. The stuff we do now can have eternal relevance, or the stuff we do now can risk our eternal freedom. So the grounding idea here is that we're foreigners and our next step is better. So from that idea, we have this instruction: don't get lost on your way to the next stop, because you totally can. So be careful with your choices. Keep choosing Jesus. Limit the freedom that you have, limit your freedom of choice for the delayed gratification of the next stop, which is eternity with God. And then we're given an even bigger pill to swallow. I mean, good luck with this one. Let's try to deal with it in perspective and wisely. The third point that I want to share with you: give the gift of respect at this stop. And specifically, it's respect to a group of people that you may not want to respect. So let's see what the text says. Verse 13 here: for the Lord's sake, submit to all human authority, whether the king, head of state, officials he's appointed. This is a big one, big pill to swallow for some of us more than others. Let's talk about this. I mean, I don't know if it's good timing or bad timing for this one. I suppose it depends on how you're going to vote. I suppose it depends on your perspective of how Canada's doing right now. And I'm sorry, I mean, what's a guy to say here? Whatever our opinion is, we're actually commanded to do certain things, like don't be lawless, don't hurt other people in a way that the law tells you not to, don't be crude against the government, don't be rebellious. If you're questioned by the police, don't be a jerk to them, because that's just plain dumb. If someone who has some kind of administrative authority over you gives you some kind of instruction, again, don't be a jerk to them, because the authority structure, I mean, the idea of authority is something that God has created for us. And he's put people in place to create order, to create structure, to create systems where we can all kind of live and thrive together. We don't have to agree. You never have to agree with someone to show respect to someone. I have no idea why our culture doesn't understand this concept today. Okay, yes, I have some idea. We become poorer communicators. We're more easily escalated. We're dopamine junkies. And we're in the middle of an identity crisis, I think, to name a few things. We don't have to agree to show respect. Respect is a gift. It's not earned. It's a gift. It's a gift that God is telling us to give. At the end of the day, your next stop is better than this stop. If you don't get your way, if we're persecuted, if we're demeaned, our next stop is better than this one. We do our best to pursue justice, love mercy, and walk humbly with God. And let's wrap this one up. Here's a good summary. I think the text summarizes it really well in verse 17. Respect everyone, love the family of believers, fear God, respect the king. I think that's a great summary for the text. Is it easy? No, not at all. Is it a good idea to try to do this? Absolutely. When your world is a place where you don't get stuck a whole lot and you feel lighter, you're less anxious. When you're feeling more hopeful about your future, you're less anxious, and it's harder to get that feeling of being stuck. I'm really looking forward to to talking about this one. Remember, it's this Sunday at 6 o'clock, open mic. Everyone gets a voice. I love the chatting about submitting to authority. That'll be fun. Okay, that's it for me to you for now. Would you please like? Would you please share? Would you please subscribe? Would you please ask for the link? 6 o'clock this Sunday, meant only on Zoom for community, creating community spaces so you can connect with others and also with God. I'll see you next time.